Since I was given the honor of speaking last, I'll keep my words as short as possible. My journey to Semikha actually began about 7 years ago when I started filling out one of the various written exams that one can take in order to become a rabbi. This happened once, and I stopped. Several years later, I picked up the pen again and started writing again, with more learning under my belt, but felt like something about this was missing, something so fundamental. And I tried this once more years later, and I gave up. And I realized that a written test was something that I couldn't do. I needed to be learning in a community and from teachers who would help me find a vision, a way of working through the material, moving from one idea to another, to understand one thing from another, and then to be able to build and construct something with it. After several conversations with Rav Hefter, Har'el was part of what emerged from that. Since this is a Beit Midrash with so much vision, I feel comfortable grounding my words in a few parshas from now, thinking forward to Parshas Pinchas. Here on the pasuk in which Moshe is enjoined to give something of his hod, something of his glory and of his splendor to his student Yoshua, the Midrash provides two different analogies. One of them is like one candle lighting another, and the second is like something poured from one vessel to the next. Now, he points out a rather obvious question. Lighting one candle and moving to the next one, each candle retains its flame in a perfect way. But when you pour from one vessel to another, something is lacking in the first vessel. He then goes on to develop two different modalities in which a student relates to his teacher, and vice versa, through which the teacher relates to his students. The first is after many, many years of work, as the student has cultivated a rich world of learning and a deep inner world of contemplation and elevation, then all the teacher needs to do is to provide the catalyst, one spark, and the student will take hold. The fire will ignite. But anyone who's ever been a student, and certainly anyone who's ever been a teacher, knows that there's a very different model as well. There are moments in which the teacher has to pour forth from his very essence into the student. At some point, the student doesn't even know if he can be worthy of receiving this. And his or her avodah at that moment is to become ready. This, he says, is Semikha. A Semikha that they used to have in the Yamim HaKadmonim, in the good old days. That the Rav was Somech the Talmid, which is to say, when the students think, I can't go any farther, the teacher pushes them that extra mile. Now that doesn't come at no cost. It takes a lot out of someone to be a teacher. But like any Ma'ayan Mitkaber, that which you give to others refills and refuels even within the teacher. Now, I think this also dovetails with his understanding of a strange pasuk in Kohelet, which says that books have been made, asot svarim harbe le'en ketz. Books have been made without any limit. And picking up on the peculiarity in the word aseh, many times we say the book is written, not necessarily that it is produced, although that might be true in the modern world. And he says, there are people who write books, but there are people who also write students. And each student becomes a sefer bifnei atzmo, because anyone who has students also knows no two students turn out exactly the same way. And this becomes the legacy of the teacher in the world. There are the books that live on the shelves, But then there are the books that move in the world and transform the world. And these are the books that go on to write other books as well. To move slightly in a different direction, the Gemara in Bava Metzia poses the question of how it's possible to build or repair elements of the Beit HaMikdash if all of the stones are holy. Because if you lean on one of the stones, or if you sit upon them in the working process, you will have derived benefit from something that belongs to God. And at the end of the Gemara, which goes back and forth suggesting different possibilities, Shmuel gives the answer, which is accepted by the Gemara: Bonim bechol ve'achar kach makdishim. You build something, one brick at a time, one stone in the wall followed by another, until it comes together into an entire structure that can hold the presence of the divine. And then you can consecrate it. One of the things that Rav Shverber asked us to learn was the dinim of Hilchot Beit HaKnesset. Maybe took that a little bit too literally when I looked up the laws of how you actually build a Beit Knesset. And one of the laws that I found actually very surprising and very moving was that a Beit HaKnesset, like many other things that we build in the world of ritual mitzvot, even if from the very moment that you put the first stone in the foundation, until the moment that the building is completed, even then the kedushat hasn't yet come into it. Until when? Until the first daven. Until the first time that the people enter and consecrate it with the words of their hearts. So in some sense, I feel like we have the honor of being the first tefillah, the first element that has been uttered and been given all the gifts that my other students and colleagues have described so eloquently. And in doing so, we can look back and look around us, the structure that we've helped to create, and see that was once a pile of stones, one shear after a shear after a shear, one siman after siman, daf after daf. It's now become a dwelling place for God.